Bitran is the head of Health and Life Sciences at Microsoft Israel R&D Center, and she's going to show us wonderful things. I'll just say one more thing about her, because she founded a multidisciplinary group which focuses on building artificial intelligence technology for health and life sciences domain. And the other thing which I think is very important is that she is a board member of SNOMED International, I hope I pronounced it right, a non-for-profit organization driving medical technologies worldwide. And I think that we have very interesting things to learn from today, so please, Hadas. I'm sorry if I missed something, but for the interest of time.
Okay. So it's great to talk to you, and thanks for inviting me. What I'd like to do is talk to you a bit about our work in the area of artificial intelligence for healthcare and how we are seeing in reality AI driving the future of healthcare. My team is here, so I run the R&D, engineering, a multidisciplinary team here in Microsoft R&D Center in Israel. But we build technologies worldwide for healthcare organizations all around the world. Microsoft Health and Life Sciences is focusing only on health and life sciences technologies. We don't do other things. One of the things you may be asking yourself is, what does Microsoft have to do with healthcare? So, in fact, over the years, we've had about 170,000 healthcare organizations that are customers of Microsoft. And at some point, we have realized that we need to help them solve problems that are related to the domain, not just sell them Excel and Windows. And we doubled down and we decided to focus on technologies that are designated for health and life sciences. We think that health is too big of a problem for us to do it ourselves. We don't fool ourselves that we'll solve everything. Therefore, we partner closely with our customers, with healthcare systems all around the world, with our partner ecosystem. We listen carefully to understand what kind of things we can do for them to help them solve their problems. And we build technologies that would try to address those problems. I'm not going to talk about everything, all the technologies that we build, but I do want to provide a few examples of things, of technologies that we are building, and some of them are already released, some of them are currently in motion. And I'll talk about 3 areas that are pretty much trending all around the world. I'm sure that you see it in your everyday life. I'm going to talk about virtual health as an area that is trending. I'm going to talk about turning data into insights and how we drive that forward, also for unstructured clinical data. And I'm also going to touch on what kind of things we do to empower care teams as just a few examples for products. So I'm going to start with virtual health, and I'm going to tell the story of this product called the Azure Health Bot. It's a product that was built by my team already in 2016. It had customers, it had traction. We built it to scale right from the get-go. It's a platform for chatbots or virtual health assistants that's built especially for healthcare, has medical content in it. From the regulatory and compliance perspective, it's like aimed especially for healthcare. And it was there, it was ready, we had customers, and then COVID hit. At the early days of the pandemic, the Providence Health System came to us, one of our big customers from the West Coast in the United States, and they told us we are collapsing. Our call center collapsed. Remember, state of Washington was the first one to be hit by COVID in the United States. We are collapsing. They had a health bot, it was doing something else, and they've asked us to help them to quickly do something that would be like a quick assessment so that they know who to direct to a conversation with a person, because this chatbot also can direct like the patient after they chat with the bot and the bot collects information. It can direct them to speak to a person and giving the person all the context so they don't have to ask everything from the beginning. Within 4 days, they were live with the first COVID-19 assessment protocol. We then, I believe it was March 2020, over the course of 3 days and 3 nights, personally myself and my team over here worked closely with the CDC, with the chief epidemiologist of the CDC, to define the real COVID-19 assessment protocol. That protocol has evolved since, by the way, I remember it very vividly because it was Pesach Sheni, second Passover. None of us slept. They didn't sleep, we didn't sleep, but at the end of the 3 days, we had a protocol. It was live within 3 days because remember, this platform was already, it was a product that we had customers for. And it was live. And then I told my team, you know what's happening next? And they all knew the answer. We translated it. We took the protocol of we open sourced the protocol because it wasn't something that Microsoft wanted or was interested in making money on. So we just open sourced that protocol and we immediately translated it to multiple languages. The first language was Hebrew. Why? Just because we are here and the team was very passionate about bringing something back to the country. It was translated. It was since this specific use case was launched, it served right now. It's close to 200 million people all around the world. At some point, we had 24 ministries of health in all around the world in different countries, big and small, and it served more than 2 billion conversations in 2 years. So this is just one example of AI technology in the service of medicine. It wasn't replacing the physicians. It wasn't replacing medical care. It was helping to triage. It was helping to prioritize or give information to the patients at a time where information was very, very scarce and very unavailable. What happened since? Of course, we had a big surge with this product, and we've seen it then being used for many other use cases: symptom checking, collecting patient-reported outcomes, answering questions, e-consent, e-CRF, finding services, finding clinicians, scheduling appointments. There are a lot of things that can be done with a chatbot, whether it's totally administrative, that you don't really need a person for that. Sometimes it's on the clinical side, but it's more, let's collect information before a real person sees that. So that's the story of this technology. I want to move to talk about another emerging area, another an area that has a surge right now in technology, which is turning data into clinical insights. So I think there's no better place to talk about this topic than this country, because we've been digital in healthcare for decades, and we have piles of data. And if you look at the COVID era, they say that more data was collected or created in the healthcare system by humanity in the last 2 years than data that was created in the last 5,000 years. If you look at the proportions of data, so we see a surge in the amount of digital data, and if we can manage this data effectively, if we can use this data effectively, we can leverage it to power clinical insights, to support decisions that are based on more data. And I want to talk about another system in this area, which is trying to address the issue of unstructured text. So structured text is no big deal, structured data is no big deal. It's in numeric fields. You can create models on it. You can create correlations. What happens when the data is unstructured? The healthcare system has a ton of unstructured data. Admission notes, discharge notes, doctor progress notes, narratives of radiology, pathology reports, what have you. The amount of unstructured data is huge, and it's kind of siloed. We can't really see what's in it, and we can't leverage it in an effective way. We've built text analytics for health. It's an NLP service. There were already a few mentions of NLP for clinical text today. It's a service that is able to capture and analyze, deeply analyze clinical text for its real meaning. And by analyze, and let me walk you through, I know that everybody's a physician here, but let me walk you through a few concepts of what we do in this service. So what we need is, we don't need to get to conclusions yet. What we need is to deeply understand what's written in the text. So the first thing we do is understanding medical entities. This is a diagnosis, this is a medication name, this is a dosage. Here we're talking about a treatment, this is a piece of demographic information. So identifying all those pieces of information. Today we identify more than 30 different types of information. The second thing we do is clinical coding. So it's not enough to say that this is a diagnosis. Let's associate it with the SNOMED code or with the ICD-10 code, or if it's in this country, with ICD-9 codes. And that is pretty critical because you want to turn this information into something you can work with when you develop all sort of prediction models or try to analyze the data. The third thing we do here is understanding relationships. So understanding that when this dosage is mentioned in the text, it actually refers to that medication. And when that genetic variant is mentioned or that mutation is mentioned, it's referring to a certain, that gene. And when they say 2 days ago, they mean that symptom. Those are called relationships between those entities. And today we identify more than 35-ish types of those relations. And we can also identify assertions. Assertion meaning whether something is said. It's not enough to see that something is mentioned in the text. Maybe it's mentioned in a negated form. Does not have fever. Maybe it's mentioned in a conditional way or in a hypothetical way. If there is fever, give them paracetamol. There's no fever yet. The fever is all hypothetical, and the paracetamol is not prescribed unless there is fever. So we need to understand those nuances. And last but not least, we need to understand if it's mentioned in the context of the patient or in the context of somebody else. So this has also been done. And at the end, what we do is we produce FHIR. FHIR is the protocol of the healthcare technology industry. And what we do here is we actually convert from raw text to FHIR resources eventually. We convert this completely unstructured text narrative to a structured narrative. So that was a lot about this technology, but bear with me. What do you do with it? Now that you've understood, now that our customers can understand the text, they can do a lot of things. So we had a health system. This technology, by the way, is generally available in English for almost 2 years. And we've worked on it for several years. It's quite sophisticated. We've had the healthcare system, for example, create a heat map of symptoms and identifying all sort of anomalies in outbreaks of symptoms. Something like that, which is in the population health area, can be done with this when you have all the clinical notes being analyzed by a system and coding them. You can very easily see if you have a surge in certain symptoms. We have healthcare systems implementing clinical trials matching. So taking the clinical trial protocol, understanding the protocol, understanding the patient data, and then doing the match. Things like patient insights or finding incidental findings in care or finding gaps in care or a lot of things. Really, the possibilities are endless. We had a hospital system that was predicting or trying to kind of create a prediction model for stroke prevention. Another healthcare system was trying to create a classifier that can easily detect whether there is an OBGYN-related emergency that requires surgery based on textual data. And there are like the use cases that we see are endless, summarization, what have you. As we engage with many healthcare providers and healthcare systems all around the world, there is one thing that we felt is deeply missing, and I think Asi touched on this earlier when he was talking about health equity. Not everything is in English, or as I like to tell my colleagues, my American colleagues in the United States, people are sick in other languages too. And for that reason, we have created this service. We have launched this service recently in 6 additional languages. German is one. I believe there are German guests in the audience. So this is an analysis of a German clinical note according to this paradigm that I've explained to you. Now that you've understood it deeply, think what you can do with it in German. French, if there are any French-speaking people in the audience, same thing. Italian. For each one of those, by the way, in order to create them, because those are actually deep learning AI models, we had to have data partnerships with health systems in different countries. So Italy was such one of those countries where we had a data partnership with an Italian customer, where after anonymizing the data, of course, allowed us to train on their data so that we can produce this NLP, biomedical NLP in Italian. Spanish, another healthcare system in Spain, actually 2 healthcare systems from Madrid, very different ones, helped us to get to this Spanish model. Portuguese, this is a Brazilian Portuguese, so a healthcare system in Madrid was our data partner in creating this module, this service really in Portuguese. And last but not least, the 6th language, Hebrew. You're going to ask why Hebrew. It's a language where only 10 million people in the world are speaking, unlike those other languages. 2 reasons. The first one is my team is here, and it was important to them. The healthcare system in Israel is important to us. We care deeply about the healthcare system, and we want to help make it better. And it was important for my team to do Hebrew. Hebrew is complicated to do. It's nothing like the other Latin languages. It's a whole separate model. We partnered with the Leumit HMO and other partners in the country to make this happen. So the first reason is because we care. And the second reason is because we knew, and it's proving itself, that the healthcare system in Israel is super open to innovation and to adopting new technologies in a way that will allow us to be successful, even though it's a small country, even though it might not be a very commercial type of, from the marketing perspective, the right thing to do. We are an R&D organization, and we care about making impact. And we knew that in this country we can make impact because we knew the healthcare system would work with us and be open for innovation. I'll talk about the last type of technology today, or my last example. I can't talk about all, or I could talk about all the things that we do, but it would take me many hours. So the last technology is, I see it as something that could be very, really disruptive to how we hold the patient-doctor interaction today. And it's a product called DAX. It's called Ambient Clinical Intelligence. What this is really, it's a thing that sits in the room, a microphone that sits in the room during the encounter between the patient and the doctor. It's recording the conversation between the patient and the doctor. It then transcribes the conversation, analyzes it, analyzes what the doctor said, what the patient said, how the interaction was between them. And what it does, it produces a proposal for a SOAP note, for a clinical note, that the doctor can then review and sign. I'm sure you can envision, like, instead of the doctor sitting behind a computer and having to type instead of examining the patient, this kind of technology is, it could be pretty disruptive to how we run medical encounters, and potentially give doctors back much more time that they can spend with their patients. This technology is already available in English, not yet in Hebrew, but I made it one of my goals to try to bring it into this country. And I'd like to show you what it looks like, or just a concept.
When patients are at their most vulnerable, when they're sick, when they're scared, they want to know that the physician is focusing on their needs, not worrying about what's in a computer screen.
I think having more face-to-face contact is going to make patients feel more valued.
Every minute that I spend doing something on the computer is a minute I'm not spending with a patient. Finding out that extra piece of information that could have led to a better health outcome.
Burnout isn't just from patient care, it's from all the other things. Documentation, billing, coding.
It leads to impacting you at home. When your kids want to play with you, you're not as acceptable or receptive to their desire to play.
Ambient clinical intelligence will allow the patient visit to work the way it should.
This AI will enable us to keep the more important things in the relationship and make the documentation a bit more secondary. Our EMR has provided us a lot more transparency with patients. If we have labs done that day, then they're able to go back in and use that as a source document.
Having this type of artificial intelligence would improve my time with the patient and to provide the care that they need.
Nuance and Microsoft working together, that partnership builds my confidence that we'll really be able to meet the needs.
How you envision